Boker Tov, good morning, Shabbat Shalom, Good Yantif, Shana Tova, Happy New Year. Ordinarily, we would open up our morning service inside our Machzor, our High Holy Day prayer book, as we do every morning worship, with liturgy and songs that express gratitude. Modeani lefanecha, we say, as we announce in reverence our appreciation for our bodies rising to another day, and for our souls having had fresh life breathed into us. The one who strengthens our steps to the one in whose image we were made. This year, we decided how better to celebrate our gratitude than to let our own Shir Shalom members and a few popular, others maybe not so well known, chime in on the topic as well. So please enjoy expressions of gratitude from our own hearts to begin this morning's service. I hope you found this as soothing as I did, indeed a keeper for all time. And we sing praise to creation and the ways of the world for all we have. Kol anshama tehallel, hallelujah, hallelujah. We transition to our worship service with a declaration of our faith in oneness. Please turn to page 121 for the Shema, and immediately following the Ve'ahavta, you shall love. Shema Yisrael Adonai
And now Audrey, our Hebrew school student, will chant Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom elavavecha v'shinantam levaneha v'dibarta bam v'shivteha b'veiteha u'lechteha v'derech u'vshopheha u'kumeha u'kshartam le'ot al yadeha ve'hayu latotefot bein eineha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beiteha u'vishahareha Leman tizkaru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohehem. Ani Adonai Elohehem asher hotzetzi etem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lahem le'Elohim ani
Thank you, Audrey. As I had mentioned last night, Audrey and her sister Scarlett are each close to becoming a bat mitzvah this November. So now please turn to page 128 as we've asked Cy Lenz to lead us in the reading, All Jews Have Their Own Egypt.
Please join me in the reading on page 128, beginning with All Jews. All Jews have their own Egypt, we must each free ourselves in our own way from the bonds that keep us from our own true integrity. When that bond is burst, when we have ousted the illegitimate masters from our minds, then someday we can each come to God, each on our own ground, within our own flame, but each to the same ultimate reality, whose power rules the sea, the earth, and each person's freely loving soul.
Thank you, Cy. We ordinarily would turn to the Amidah at this time, found on page 130. But how to approach this prayer, which is quite lengthy, and actually how to approach the entire service, for that matter, for this year was a struggle for our worship committee. One of our guiding lights for all of our High Holy Day worship gatherings this year was simplicity. Shorter than the usual few hours we would have, and simple. Simple to represent maybe stillness, maybe even a little bit of humbleness. It's certainly how we've been feeling these last months. If we weren't smart enough to slow down, it's been done for us. We are in far less control of our surroundings than we might have thought previously. I hold here a prayer book for Jews in the Armed Forces of the United States. It's from the 1940s. It's on loan from Reb Neil Atkinson. Thank you, Reb. And it states in the prayer book, "May this prayer book, small enough in size, be carried in a pocket over the heart. So may this be a teaching for us all to imagine such a thing over our hearts as often as we can." And turning to the pages of the Amidah inside this little book, we read that when the time is short, as it often is in the military and in other scenarios as well, the following abbreviated Amidah may be read. So in these rare days of our current situation, allow me actually to lead us in these simple and relatable few thoughts from this one page. Havinenu Adonai Eloheinu ledat derachecha. Give us understanding to know your ways. Discipline our hearts. Keep us from sorrow. Nourish us and forgive us. Baruch atah Adonai shomea tefillah. Blessed are you, Adonai, who hears prayer. So may these words in this abbreviated Amidah have equal profoundness. May we live to earn an understanding to know only ways of graciousness. And may we all work to discipline our hearts as well as judge less and lead with love. Let us now proclaim the sacred power of this day, for it is awesome. We continue our service with the Unatan Tokef on page 133. We'll be turning pages throughout all the way to 139, so please follow along. We shall affirm the mighty holiness of this day, a day of awe and dread, for upon it is God's rules exalted, and the holy throne established in covenantal love.
When we really begin a new year, it is decided. When we actually repent, it is determined.
Who shall truly be alive, and who shall merely exist?
Who shall be tormented by the fire of ambition, and whose hopes shall be quenched by the waters of failure?
Who shall be pierced by the sharp sword of envy? And who shall be torn by the wild beast of resentments?
Who shall hunger for companionship? And who shall thirst for approval?
Who shall be shattered by storms of change? And who shall be plagued by the pressures of conformity?
Who shall be strangled by insecurity? And who shall be beaten into submission?
Who shall be content with their lot? And who shall go wandering in search of satisfaction?
Who shall be serene? And who shall be distraught?
But teshuvah, tefillah, and tzedakah, repentance, prayer, and just action have the power to change the character of our lives. So therefore let us repent, pray, and do right, so that this may be a genuinely new year of life.
ונתנה תוקף קדושת היום, כי הוא נורא ואיום, ובו תינשא מלכותך, ויקום בחסד כסאך, ותשב עליו באמת, ותשב עליו באמת. באמת כי אתה הוא דיין מוכיח, ויודע בעת, וחותם וסופר ומונה, ותזכור כל המשכחות, ותפתח ספר הזיכרונות, ומאליו יקרא וחותם יד כל אדם בו, ובשופר גדול ייתקע, ובכל דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפשו, וחיל ורעתם יאחזו, ומלאכים יחפשו, וחיל ורעתם יאחזו, ויראו הנה יום הגיל.
Page 138. Please join me. Rosh Hashanah, Higatenu, Yom Tzom Kippur, Higatenu, Rosh Hashanah, Higatenu, Yom Tzom Kippur, Higatenu. On Rosh Hashanah it is inscribed, and on the Fast of Atonement it is sealed, how many shall move on, and how many be created, who shall live, and who shall die.
Who at the culmination of their life, and who not at the culmination? Who by fire, and who by water? Who by sword, and who by wild beast? Who by famine, and who by drought? Who by earthquake, and who by an epidemic?
Who by strangling, and who by stoning? Who shall have rest, and who can never be still? Who shall be serene, and who torn apart? Who shall be at ease, and who afflicted? Who shall be impoverished, and who shall be enriched? Who shall be brought low, and who shall be raised high? The teshuvah, prayer, and charitable acts will move us past the pain of the decree. Uteshuva, utefila, utsedaka, mavirin et roa agzera. Uteshuva, utefila, utsedaka, mavirin et roa agzera. Teshuvah, prayer, and acts of justice and loving kindness will better secure us for sweeter days in the new year. Stephanie Ozer has recorded a treat for us, no words, just melody, for the Sim Shalom, page 154. Thank you, Stephanie. We now turn to page 158 for the Avinu Malkeinu. And I found in our archives a Rosh Hashanah morning service booklet compiled by Rabbi Alan Greenbaum. You might remember him. I'm not aware of the source, but I found these words before the Avinu Malkeinu to be especially fitting. Written some years ago, I'm sure, I now rename this prayer that I'm about to read to you that was inside the booklet. I'm going to rename it an answered prayer. For if anything in these last 6 months, we were all forced to slow down. Take a listen. Slow me down, Lord. Ease the pounding of my heart. By the quieting of the mind, steady my harried pace with a vision of the eternal reach of time. Give me, amidst the confusions of my day, the calmness of the everlasting hills. Break the tensions of my nerves with the soothing music of the singing streams that live in my memory. Help me to know the magical power of sleep. Teach me the art of taking minute vacations, of slowing down to look at a flower, to chat with an old friend, or to make a new one, or to give attention to an animal, even to watch a spider build a web, to smile at a child, or to read a few lines from a good book. Remind me each day that the race is not always to the swift, that there is more to life than increasing its speed, Let me look upward into the branches of the towering oak and know that it grew great and strong because it grew slowly and well. Slow me down, Lord, and inspire me to send my roots deep into the soil of life's enduring values, that I may grow towards the stars, my greatest destiny. The Avinu Malkeinu. Malkeinu, we've done wrong before you. Avinu Malkeinu, we have no sovereign except you. Avinu Malkeinu, let renewed goodness fill the year ahead. Avinu Malkeinu, send healing to all who are ill. Avinu Malkeinu, overturn the plots of those who bear us enmity. Avinu Malkeinu, remove from all your children disease, war, famine, exile, destruction. Avinu Malkeinu, forgive and pardon all our wrongdoings. Avinu Malkeinu, return us to you in earnest repentance. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in your book for a life of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in your book of sustenance. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of meritorious acts. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of forgiveness and reconciliation. Avinu Malkeinu, show mercy to us and to our children. Avinu Malkeinu, open the gates of heaven to our prayers. Avinu Malkeinu, do it for the sake of those who went through fire and water to honor your name. Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious and respond to us, for we have too few good deeds. Act towards us with justice, tempered by love, and bring us salvation. Please join me in the Kaddish Shalem on page 161. Yitgadav Yitgadav Shemei Rabbah Bi'alad V'rachuteh V'yamlich Malchuteh B'chayachon V'yomechon U'v'chay B'chol Beit Yisrael L'agadav V'zman Kariv V'himeru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mivorach Le'olam Olam Me'almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitbar V'yitbarach V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaveh V'yitavah Shmei V'kudesha B'richu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol Berchata V'shirata Tushbachata V'nechamata Da'amira V'yalma V'yimeru Titkaber left Lord hon vald hon chol bet Yisrael kadam avu hon di shamayim v'himnaru yesh lo marabah min shamayim v'chaim alel v'kol Yisrael v'himnaru oseh shalom b'romav v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'himnaru. Amen. Sefer Bereshit, the book of Genesis, begins with the story of creation. It will be these creation verses that will be addressed today on Rosh Hashanah. And continuing with our chanting of Torah on Yom Kippur, we will have told the story of the 7 days. Our rabbinic intern, Ma'ayan Lev, who's done wonderful preparation to bring these verses to life for us, he has gifted us today with the chanting. You will find small differences in our Torah service. Again, with a screen tolerance time factor for you in mind, we needed to trim some of the extra, some of the, it doesn't make sense to do it this way this year. So what you won't see different are the words of Torah themselves. We will be chanting 19 verses this morning, the first 4 days of creation, with just one aliyah. Beyond hearing the words and seeing the English translations in between, listen. Listen for soulful intention and let it awake yours. Please turn to page 164 as we begin our Torah service in the middle of the page, 4 lines from the bottom of the Hebrew, in this abbreviated service. We chose to begin with Ki Mitzion Tetzeh Torah. From the people of Israel, the Torah shall come forward.
Ki Mitzion Tetzeh Torah. Ki Mitzion Tetzeh Torah. Udeor Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Li'amo Yisrael B'kedushato.
13 attributes.
אדוני, אדוני, אל רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת. נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטאה ונקה.
Adonai, merciful before we sin. Adonai, merciful even after we sin. God of gentle justice, filled with mother love and grace. Slow to anger, great in continental love and truth. Keeping love for the thousands within the covenant. Forgiving perverse actions, rebelliousness, and missing of the mark, and acquitting.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonai Kedosh Norah Shemo Gadlu Adonai Iti Uneromema Shemo Yah. Talmud Yehudit Bat Shmuel Luba Aliyah Torah.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן. בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ, והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו, וחושך על פני תהום, ורוח אלוהים מרחפת על פני המים. ויאמר אלוהים יהי אור, ויהי אור. וירא אלוהים את האור כי טוב, ויבדל אלוהים בין האור ובין החושך. ויקרא אלוהים לאור יום, ולחושך קרא לילה, ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום אחד. ויאמר אלוהים יהי רקיע בתוך המים, ויהי מבדיל בין מים למים. ויעש אלוהים את הרקיע, ויבדל בין המים אשר מתחת לרקיע, ובין המים אשר מעל לרקיע. ויהי כן. ויקרא אלוהים לרקיע שמיים, ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום שני. ויאמר אלוהים יקבעו המים מתחת השמיים אל מקום אחד, ותראה היבשה. ויהי כן. ויקרא אלוהים ליבשה ארץ, ולמקווה המים קרא ימים. וירא אלוהים כי טוב. ויאמר אלוהים תדשה הארץ דשא, עשב מזריע זרע, עץ פרי עושה פרי למינו, אשר זרעו על הארץ. ויהי כן. ותוצא הארץ דשא, עשב מזריע זרע למיניהו, ועץ עושה פרי, אשר זרעו למיניהו. וירא אלוהים כי טוב. ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום שלישי. ויאמר אלוהים יהי מאורות ברקיע השמיים, להבדיל בין היום ובין הלילה, והיו לאותות ולמועדים, ולימים ושנים. והיו למאורות ברקיע השמיים, להאיר על הארץ. ויהי כן. ויעש אלוהים את שני המאורות הגדולים, את המאור הגדול לממשלת היום, ואת המאור הקטון לממשלת הלילה, ואת הכוכבים ויתן אותם אלוהים ברקיע השמיים, להאיר על הארץ, ולמשול ביום ובלילה, ולהבדיל בין האור ובין החושך. וירא אלוהים כי טוב. ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום רביעי.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, חיי עולם נוטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. אמן.
The Mishaberach, our healing prayer, is our deepest, one of our most profound healing moments in all of our worship gatherings. Mishaberach, as we call it, literally means the one who blessed. As with our ancestors through centuries, no matter what your idea of God may be, may simply the name God, Adonai, bring thoughts of peace, calmness, and bring healing to us and to our loved ones. And during this unique time of uncertainty with some devastation in our midst, our hearts reach out to the victims of our fires and hurricanes and our pandemic and those facing economic struggles and educational struggles, so much more. So as we fill our hearts with the names of those who hurt so much, may we remember, specifically at this time, to show a kind heart and be a source of healing to others. So please turn to page 179 as I read the names currently on our list in need of our prayers for their well-being. Barbara Bloom, Eve Curtin, Andrea Delaney, Carly Friedman, Beth Goldman, Lori Goldman, Ruth Green, Ross Kaplan, Jean Knapp, Jerry Cram, Bonnie Lasky, Liba Laviolette, Sherry Levine, Rabbi Art Levine, Susan Levine, Michael Lipson, Peggy Lipson, Anya Magnuson, Eileen Michaels, Rob Michaels, Phyllis Myers, Richard Myers, Misha Ross, Margaret Sampson, Shelley Schneider, Carrie Schoenbach, and Richard Schramm. And I allow you a moment to hold other names into your hearts or even speak them out loud as we join in the Mishaberach.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, their renewal of body, their renewal of spirit, and let us say
Vezot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Yisrael Ati Adonai Li'ad Moshe.
Torah, 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 Tziva
Lanu Moshe Torah, 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 Tziva Lanu Moshe Torah, 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 Tziva. I'd like to begin with a well-known story in our worship circles when the Tzanzer Rebbe was asked by his disciples "What does the rabbi do before praying?" "I pray," was the reply, "that I may be able to pray properly." And I would say for the, last 6 months, this pandemic era, that's been a standard with me. And from conversations with many of you, it seems to be the same. Worship, prayer, for many, it's difficult. Real, intense soul-searching, it takes time, momentum, and certain variables need to be present. For some, that means especially a heart and mind that says, maybe there's something about all this that's true and real. Maybe not true and real in the way we understand everything else around us, but in another way, maybe mystical, buried in the mysteries of life. Certainly true for the spiritual path. And when it comes to God and creation, Torah, prayers, blessings, maybe it's not also black and white. Maybe it's undeserving of a definitive yes or no, as we sometimes see the rest of the world. Rabbi David Ellenson writes, "Faith is never easy. Even the rabbis of the Talmud, exemplars of belief, frequently spoke of the hiddenness of God, hester panim." He goes on to explain that even though many of us want to believe with emunah shlema, with full faith and trust, we often are still left sometimes with questioning the existence of it all. A sixth sense, that of uncertainty. It's human nature. So the probability of the creation story, even with an embellishment of the truth, it's pretty hard to accept at surface level. Certainly from the perspective in which we live, we have so much skepticism around us. We're not even really sure how much of what we hear and see in the here and now is true. So our traditions for a belief in God say even an opening the size of the sharp tip of a needle is enough, for starters. The story of creation actually begins in darkness, not creation. But by the third verse, light, God's first creation, came into being. Yehi or, let there be light, and there was light. So some wonder if actually that was the Big Bang was all about. So jumping to the sixth day, to the very last thing created on earth, man and woman, with God's divine image planted within, Zachar v'nekeva bara otam. Male and female did God create them. In the story of creation, before God ceased from work and rested, light is the first of things to be created, and human life is the last. So this creates a kind of a natural arc of light and life meant for us. This light that was the first of all creation, it's not the sun nor is it the moon, for they were only created on the fourth day. And this light, Yehi or, let there be light, therefore, among popular belief, seems to be a special creation, to separate light from darkness, where it all began, and thus placing light and woman and man at the bookends of all creation. And if bookends thus and God's creation, I imagine they must match perfectly. We are light, and light, not darkness, should define us. And we often call this light the Shekhinah, the presence of God in the world. I mentioned before that maybe some of the answers are left to the mysteries of life, but a successful spiritual journey during these days of awe, and for that matter, any time of the year, to really stop to ponder upon ways in which we could tweak some of those less charming habits of ours. That journey is neither magical nor mysterious. Here, success is simply the natural consequence of consistently putting forth basic traditional fundamentals, with an emphasis on consistently. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, verse 10, I read, B'ni, im yaftucha chatayim al toveh. My child, should sinners or sinning entice you, don't be willing. Wow, how does one manage not to be willing? It is a question Jewish thinkers, and the world for that matter, have been asking for a long, long time. There's the story of a Jewish mother whose son had just gotten married, and she wasn't too keen on the bride's true sense of righteousness. So she decided to send to them an old family Jewish Bible. And she was asked by the postal clerk, "Is there anything breakable in here?" "Only the commandments," she said. We all know good and well that our inner appetites, what drives us sometimes, certainly our wounds of the past, without our even being conscious of it, these yetzer hara, these inclinations to walk away from goodness or from godliness, these are actively preventing us from living the life as we know we should. One Musar teacher, Rabbi Eli Alopian, describes this journey as teaching the heart what the mind already understands. And on a side note, I found the mask that we've all been wearing to be a great metaphor. The mask that we wear helps prevent a person who is sick from spreading the virus to others. It helps keep these respiratory droplets contained and from reaching other people. So may we, during these days, acquire masks of the spiritual kind as well that prevent us from contaminating others when we speak ill of another person or harsh judgments upon someone. A mask that contain all this from reaching other people. A mask that would only allow sweetness forth. So for those full of faith, I hope for you a very successful journey in uncovering truths that will lead you to a better, more wholesome life. And for those who have at least managed to create that pinhole size for now, may you come to understand more of God's love and desire for you to live the most excellent life possible. And let's remember the light of creation, our light, and let it lead us as we sit at home, as we walk upon the way, as we rise up, and when we lie down at night. May we consistently keep a conscious contact with holiness and things everlasting. Esa enai el harim ein yavo ezri. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from the eternal, maker of heaven and earth, creator of light, our light for all time. The shofar tells us, "Awake, you sleepers, from your sleep. Arouse yourselves from your slumber. Awake to the sight of eternal truths." L'Shana Tova, we at Shir Shalom wish for you a healthy, safe, and joyous new year. Throughout Jewish history, there have been many arrangements made of the prayer that comes before the sounding of the shofar. So once a certain Rabbi Zev was given the privilege of sounding the shofar in front of the Baal Shem Tov, the person who founded the Hasidic movement. So while preparing for his task and writing a special prayer, after a while, Reb Zev looked for the piece of paper that he was writing on, and he couldn't find it. And he was desperate. But in the end, he just concluded that it was lost. So distraught, Rabbi Zev spoke to the Baal Shem Tov. "Please forgive me, but I do not know the right prayer to speak before the sounding of the shofar. I'm so sorry." And the Baal Shem Tov said, "You've just said the prayer. For what else can the shofar be sounded except to move people to speak to other people, to say, 'I'm sorry. I ask your forgiveness.'" Please join us outside for the awakening, the sounding of the shofar.
In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, there shall be a sacred assembly, a cessation from work, a day to reflect on our lives and our relationships with those around us. As part of this reflection, we listen to the sound of the shofar. Each series of blasts begins and ends with a tekiyah, a whole note. In between, shvarim and teruah, broken notes. The theme of Rosh Hashanah is this: we begin whole. Along the path of life, we become broken through pain, mistakes, loss, failure, illness, weakness, and more. But the end is whole. We can become whole again. There is hope.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו לשמוע קול שופר. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
You are praised, Adonai our God, majesty of the universe, who made us holy through your mitzvot and commanded us to listen to the sound of the shofar. You are praised, Adonai our God, majesty of the universe, who has kept us alive and sustained us and allowed us to reach this wondrous time. Tekiah, Shavarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shavarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shavarim Teruah, Tekiah.
Today marks the birthday of the world. Today we affirm our faith that the world makes sense, that there is design and purpose, order and beauty within it. And we affirm that we, who are made in God's image, are called upon to continue the work of creation, to finish the task of bringing order out of chaos, light where there is darkness, understanding where there is ignorance, and hope where there is despair.
ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש השבת בישראל ויום הזיכרון.
You are praised, ruler over all the earth, whose holiness we encounter through Shabbat, Israel, and the day of remembrance. Tekiah, Shavarim Ruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shavarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah.
You remember the creation of the universe. You recollect every creature you formed from of old. Before you is revealed everything that humans cannot see, everything that has been buried since the world began. There is no forgetting before your throne of glory. You remember every single act.
ברוך אתה אדוני, זוכר הברית.
Praised are you, Adonai, for whom the covenant is ever present. Tekiah, Shavarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shavarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah.
Our God and God of those who have gone before us, let there be heard from this shofar we sound today the notes of the great shofar announcing that freedom for all people has arrived. Hearken to our hopes which rise on every quivering sound, and let the promise of that horn come true in our own time.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני, שומע כל תרועת עמו ישראל ברחמים.
Praised are you, Adonai, who listens to the Torah your people offer you today. Tekiah, Shavarim Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shavarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah Gedolah.
Today is the world conceived. Today all humanity is judged. Some as children, some as servants. If as children, show us a parent's compassion. If as servants, know that our eyes depend on you to show us grace and a judgment clear as light, O holy, awesome one.
הרשת שפתנו ירב לבניך אל רב ונישא. הרשת שפתנו ירב לפניך אל רב ונישא. מבין ומאזין, מביט ומקשיב לכל תקיעתנו. תקבל ברחמים, ברחמים וברצון, סדר שופרותינו.
May the words on our lips be pleasing, O exalted God, who hearkens to the Tekiah we sound today. O accept with favor the order of our shofarot, the praise of your ancient sounds, and the hope for those you will sound at the dawn of the age to come.
I hope you enjoyed the change of scenery, and I hope our efforts were pleasing to you. And now is your time to say, Hineni, here I am, present, with sharper wisdom, more clear understanding, and the knowledge now needed to know really what Hineni means. Please turn to page 213 for the Etz Chaim as we return the Torah to the Ark.
Etz Chaim למחזיקים בה בתוהה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם בכל נתיבותיה שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה הקדש הקדש עמנו הקדש עמנו כקדם.
We have shared many words together. That we could speak them and hear them spoken means that there is a place in the world for them, that our songs of praise and prayers of hope have not gone empty. If the hopes that we have shared today are not to have been shared in vain, we must not abandon our words. Our words must leave with us when we enter the doors and when we exit the doors. Our words must lead with us in this new year, accompany us as we walk upon the road, when we sit in our homes, when we lie down, and when we rise up. Please turn to page 214 for the Elenu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו גאוי הרצון, ולא שמענו במשפחות האדמה, שלא זמזלתנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המנם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, וחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We also remember the victims and heroes who have lost their lives here in our midst. And as we remember them all, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and beyond. Please turn to page 216 for the Mourner's Kaddish. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles and the High Holy Day candles, life is kindled, it burns, and it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. I'd like to ask Howard to read the names on our Mourner's Kaddish list, and also those that passed away in the last 11 months.
Those we are honoring from Congregation Church Shalom for the month of September: Morris Alowitz, relative of Robert and Linda Alowitz; Milton Berman, father of Linda Ahrens; Robert Egger, father of Howard Egger Beauvais; James Finley, father of Steve Finley; Max Friedman, father of Judy Friedman; Donald Gertz, father of Ken Gertz; Alan Rosh, husband of Lynn Lancaster; Barbara Kahn Gardner, mother of Bob Gardner; Therese Kerman, aunt of Susan Levine; Stephen Lawrence, father of Lisa Lawrence Mizaki; Robert Leader, father of Shell Leader; Maurice Lenz, father of Cy Lenz; Roger Levy, brother of Jim Levy; Lucille Lipson, mother of Michael Lipson; Gail Lutoff, wife of Robert Lutoff; Harry Malakoff, father of Sharon Malakoff; Roy Mizaki, father of Lad Mizaki; Nita Neiman, mother of Maddie Leader; Harding A. Oren, father of Ben Perlson; Ada Kate Perlson, mother of Lou Perlson; Robert Rosen, father of James Rosen; Hilda Sondheim, grandmother of Dan Sondheim; Ida Tenenbaum, mother of Robert Tenenbaum. Now, even though we're not in person, if there's a name on this list that you would like to say, please say it now. Out loud, we'll take a moment of silence. And now those we've lost in the last 11 months: Ruth Cooper, mother of Eileen Greenberg; Erwin Miller, husband of Judy Miller; Carol Cohen, mother of Judy Cohen, mother-in-law of Carl Spicer; Emma Rich, husband of Little Rich; Lawrence Kaufman, uncle of Lauren Myers, brother-in-law to Richard and Phyllis Myers; Willie Popovich, mother of Sandra Pollock, mother-in-law of Richard Pollock; Nathan Levine, father of Michelle Sampson, father-in-law to Frank Sampson; Shirley Silver, mother of Helene Silver and aunt of Anita Silver; Larry Goldstein, friend of Judy Miller; and Leonard Levine, father of Susan Levine.
And again, if you would like to bring to heart or mention in the comfort of your own home out loud the name of someone you've lost in the last 11 months, please do so. And additionally, I'd just like to bring more attention to those we do not know, but we know their lives have been lost, whether it be the first responders in the various areas of crisis that we're feeling, whether it be fires or pandemic and all of the rest, lives lost. We're the fortunate ones, and we give gratitude for that. So in their honor also, the Mourner's Kaddish. It's on page 6262 in our High Holy Day prayer book. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah. Bi'alma divarach Yerutei, Bi'amlich Malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chaye v'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'adala, v'gizman kariv, v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach La'olam Omer Maya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal Shemei v'kudisha, B'richu. Le'ele le'ele min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya, v'chaim aleinu al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. If you'd like to read with me in the closing passage, page 218. Now, with senses newly quickened by the time we've spent together, let us walk out into the new year with the lessons we've learned. Having listened to the shofar, let us listen also to the good voices in our lives. Having looked into the Torah, let us look to find our best selves. Having tasted honey, let us bring the taste of sweetness to the lives of those we love. Having smelled the fragrant year outside our praying place, let us work to preserve that fragrance from the destructive forces in the world. Having touched the ancient thoughts and yearnings of our people, let us resolve to let the needs of others touch us, moving us to action in the days ahead. May we all be inscribed for a good and fruitful, healthy, and peaceful year. We've chosen to bring our Rosh Hashanah worship service to a near end with a special song. Why near end? Because after our closing song, we have both a beautiful montage of holiday blessings from you and an additional special treat by my dear colleague and friend, Rabbi Dvorah Israel, who graduated from rabbinical school with me 10 years ago. She's gifted us with a Rosh Hashanah teaching. And then we also have a slideshow of our very own Shir Shalom members and friends over the years. If you need to pause any of this to get to the duck pond by 1 p.m. today for our in-person and live Tashlich ceremony, facilitated by Jonathan Stone and Susan Reber, then do so. But please continue with the special treats that still await you. This link will be available on our website for you to review at any time. So we transition now with the song we sing when we return the Torah to the Ark, the Etz Chaim. It seemed to me to be the most appropriate, for it is a tree of life for those fortunate ones who hold fast to it. Hashivenu Adonai Elohecha v'neshuva, it says in the words. Bring us back, Adonai, that we might return. Renew our life as in the days when you and we began to create the world.
Shoot.